The previous basket is under review.
Go take a look at the top of KenPom right now, and you'll see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar brands. Even if they're not the biggest brands in college basketball, they've got some of the best coaches. They've been up there for a while. And the lone exception to that right now are the surging 9-0 Vanderbilt Commodores, up at number 7 on KenPom. They overachieved in year one under Mark Byington, made the NCAA tournament, beat Kentucky, won some high-level games, beat Tennessee at home. But that was a nice surprise. I'm not sure that was something that people viewed as the start of something monstrous. And right now, the Vanderbilt Commodores feel very much on the same trajectory as an Alabama under Nate Oats, or it's faster than this, but an Auburn under Bruce Pearl, like a complete program turnaround that has a job that for the last several years has been at the bottom of the SEC, now very much contending for the top and a serious SEC title contender. I think that's fair to say. We can question the merits of their national title candidacy early on. That's maybe something we'll get into in this video, Fawcett. But I think our goal here today is help people understand how Vanderbilt, with a roster of guys I think on this Discord you've probably heard of, but maybe nationally is not, is not full of household names, with a coach that's certainly not a household name, that is just shredding people and doing it in incredibly appealing fashion aesthetically with the style of play.
I think that's where the Alabama comparison is a really good one. I think that's when Nate Oats was exploding on the scene at Alabama. It wasn't just that they were winning games and maximizing their talent, but doing it by playing really fast and scoring really efficiently. And that's what Vanderbilt is doing. And I think that their success is probably indicated by the fact that you were like, okay, well, not sure they can win a national championship, but we have to discuss their chances. Like, that's just something I wouldn't have ever expected over the last, number of years. I mean, since like Luke Cornett and then those teams that were
Vanderbilt was 183rd on KenPom 2 years ago.
And that is unfathomable. And the way that they have built their roster, and again, there's probably some institutional changes that has allowed them to play the portal a little bit more. Maybe you can speak to that. It's just, things that I was hearing here or there, but the fact that they didn't go the way of, here's a bunch of unknown guys from the low major ranks that like we'll take 5 of them and see if they'll hit. They didn't go for like the cast off 5 stars. They went for kind of like something in the middle. And right now, like, everything is clicking. The guys they brought in are clicking. The guys that were in the program since last year clicking, and it is just made for a super fun watch.
Yeah, Vanderbilt is now the second ranked offense on KenPom, behind only Purdue, ahead of Alabama, ahead of Louisville, ahead of some of these like new age coaching staffs. And quite frankly, I think it all starts with their backcourt. It's Tyler Tanner, the undersized sophomore who was actually a holdover commit from Jerry Stackhouse, who was famous last year for never turning the ball over, especially early on. I think like he made it through half the season without a single turnover and be like, oh, this is like kind of a nifty guy. But I don't know that people saw necessarily the ceiling, which is quickly emerging as one of the best guards in the SEC. He had 26, 5, and 6 yesterday against SMU and was absurd. And then Duke Miles, the like ultimate well-traveled, stops at Troy, High Point, Oklahoma, a couple of commits this spring. He eventually finds his way to Vandy, and he has been absolutely phenomenal. And these two guys and their ability to play within the structure of this Mark Byington system have totally changed the fortunes of this Commodore program.
It's an incredible backcourt to watch. And I'll be honest, Sweeney, when people start talking to me about assist to turnover ratio, I often don't care that much. To be honest with you, I don't love that stat as much as so many people do. I know that when it comes to guards who don't turn the ball over, like oftentimes to me, it's like, okay, well, guys that don't turn the ball over also aren't creating enough. So you kind of have to turn the ball over. But then I watch guys like this and Duke Miles, who is still getting a piece of the paint all the time and making the right decision. That really shows what Vanderbilt is, of these guys who play under control and also still are creating individual scoring opportunities, creating passing opportunities for their teammates. And when you watch plays like this, it's almost a little Villanova. You look at all these 2-foot jump stops in the lane where they attack, they get downhill, they get pieces of the paint, they're under control, they're not off 1 foot where they might throw away a bad pass or take an ill-advised layup attempt. Like this kind of under control, like you said, playing within the structure of the offense while still just being able to, like, okay, once we get a piece of the paint, we're making something happen. That's pretty huge. And then, Tyler Tanner here, it's like same kind of thing, but a little bit more flashy, a little bit more wiggle to his game, but it's the same thing. It's getting a piece of the paint, reading the defense, playing under control, and then making the next best decision. Now, this is one of the craziest stats to me. I know we're small sample size theater here through the first kind of month of the season, but Vanderbilt is number 1 in the country in offensive block rate. Like, they don't get their shots blocked, and they're number 2 in offensive steal rate. So like, they're not getting their shots blocked and they aren't turning the ball over. But then when you watch plays like this, where these guards are just so under control, reading the defense to such a high level, executing the structure at such a high level, and then, piece of the paint, get 2 feet, make the right decision. It's so fun to watch. I think these guys are tremendous. And that's something that if you're looking to what their ceiling could be like, yes, there's some flaws on the roster, but 2 point guards that can both play off the ball, play on the ball, make the right decision. It's huge. Now, last night, they're playing SMU, and SMU is like, okay, these are smaller guards. We got to take the ball out of their hands. Let's be aggressive. Watch how casual the split is of the edge. Like it's nothing, like off to a nice Sunday walk. Same thing. They're going to try to hard hedge him again. Watch how casual he splits this hedge. Like the game is just too easy for him at times. Like, this is a good team he's playing against, and he's just making it look so casual. Duke Miles, same thing. Sees an aggressive coverage, takes a couple dribbles back, no problem. Rifles a one-hand skip pass. It's too easy. Same thing here. Hard hedge. No problem. I'm going to read the defense, keep my head up, use my length, and make a pass into the paint. So these guys are not your prototypical types when you're talking about, like, okay, who are the best guards in the country, who could be like, power their team to a really high level. But it's 2 guys that, while playing a very similar style, are very complementary. I think it has been the engine behind what they've done.
Yeah. I think of the word robotic, and I don't say that in a negative way, but I think and Villanova and Alabama are 2 great examples of this. Like, it's so unbelievably frustrating to play against those 2 teams when they've been at their peak over the last decade, because it just feels like these guys are constantly making the right play, and like it just, you spit something out at them and they spit it right back at you, right? Like, okay, they're gonna hedge, all right, we're like split and go, all right, they're gonna get the double, all right, pop it over the top, play 4 on 3. Like, these guys play with an incredible lack of ego and just are so locked in on making the right play in front of them, and they aren't absurdly complicated decisions in a lot of contexts. I don't feel like, obviously, like, it takes high level skill to do what Tyler Tanner's doing, like splitting those, ball screens like there's nothing. Like he's obviously really good, but I think it speaks in an incredible way to the buy-in that Byington has gotten with these guys, that none of these guys, many of whom are on school number 2, 3, even 4, and they're just, again, relentlessly pursuing the right play. And then on the same thing on the defensive end, and we'll talk about them later, like, they have their flaws on the defensive end, but like, these guys all come in and guard the hell out of the ball. Like, they are getting into people. They play really hard. And so I just think big picture, like, maybe they lack, they probably lack the top tier talent, but they have guys that really fit. And, last year they had this, maybe bigger name backcourt with Jason Edwards and AJ Hoggard and some of these guys. And Tanner and Duke Miles have been a pretty substantial upgrade leading the way, but also Frankie Collins has been solid. And then they have all these wing bodies to throw at you. It's been a really impressive formula. I mean, Tyler Tanner looks like he's like breaking KenPom right now. He has a 140 O rating. He's top 30 in the country in true shooting percentages and sub 6 foot guard. He has a near 5% steal rate. I mean, he's shooting 62% on 2s and 50% on 3s. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. And then Duke Miles is getting fouled all the time. And again, there's nothing in these guys' pedigrees necessarily that makes you think yes, unequivocally, this is what they will do. Now, Duke Miles was very efficient last year, and I do think, I would actually be interested to get Byington on a Zoom or something like this and talk through some of their like portal strategy, because it feels like consistently they're involved with the guys that the analytics machines say are better than the like average person would say they are. And Duke Miles is probably an example of that. Like he was, top 50 in the country in true shooting percentage last year at Oklahoma. AJ Hoggard last year obviously didn't pan out maybe the way that they totally had hoped, but AJ Hoggard was a guy that like the numbers said was a lot better than the vibes suggested. So I'd be interested to talk to them about their recruiting strategy. Maybe that's something we can do later on Scout Team. But even I don't think anyone when Duke Miles was bouncing from commitment to commitment this spring was like, yeah, Duke Miles is going to like set the world on fire in the SEC. Like it's like, oh yeah, he's probably like a low end starter. He was that last year on a tournament team. He plugged and played. He was solid. He made shots. Like, and again, he's one of the best guards in the SEC as of today, and that is a wild thing. He's also very old. I'm gonna pull his age here shortly and stop talking, but like they've done a nice job of just kind of collecting guys that really fit, that are willing to make the right play. And yeah, Duke Miles being 24 on February 3rd certainly will help.
Yeah, these guards are really talented, but I do think Byington deserves tons of credit as well for the offense. And you mentioned how it does look like robotic. I mentioned in a positive way. I mentioned the game looks easy. Some of that is definitely the individual talents of these players, but I think a lot of it too is Byington's ability to create an offense that puts these guys in position to do so. And another thing that I do find would be another kind of difference between an Alabama and a Vanderbilt would be the pace that Vanderbilt plays with in the half court. And that's something where I feel like when we're talking about like teams that play fast and you look at like Vanderbilt's numbers that suggest they play fast, like just would suggest, oh, they're running up and down, they're getting opportunities in transition. Like, yeah, they are, but they play with incredible pace in the half court and make it really difficult for you to guard them in the half court. And then, like you said, Sweeney, if there is like any mistake, then here is these guards to punish it. Now, look at this entry that Byington loves to run, where there's this curl going towards the rim. It's almost like, again, UConn really popularized some of the stuff. You have curls going towards the rim. Those guys turn into either back screeners or guys that are getting pin downs for shots. So you saw how they turned that one into a Spain. Wanted to introduce that because now let's look at the first play of the game against St. Mary's, a very good defensive team. They run that curl entry, turns into a little bit of a Spain look. They get that empty side layup. Now here they go again. They go and set it up just a few minutes later. Oh, but this time they're actually going to stagger out. There's no low man. St. Mary's is left trailing. Now it's the last play of the quarter. So remember the last time they staggered out for that bottom man. Now they run that curl entry. Oh, it's back to Spain. Vanderbilt scores again. The guards make the right decisions. Like it happens over and over and over again. And now for good measure now here in the second, look at the set they run here. Take away that low man with the Miami action, the dribble handoff into a ball screen with an exit to the corner. And again, just like Byington moving the pieces around, moving around the low man. How do you tag these pick and rolls? Guards that can hit the roll no matter where the action is going towards. They've been really good, but yeah, like this is not just like I mentioned the Villanova comparison where I said, well, like, look at these guards, they touch the paint, they make the right decision. But obviously Villanova was known for not running a lot of sets, if any sets. Like it seemed like they would go games without really running a lot of set calls. We talked about Alabama, how they get a lot in transition. I mean, they run a lot of great stuff in the half court, but I look at Byington and I'm like, okay, they are doing great in transition, which we didn't get into in this video, but they're playing with great pace and they're running a lot of great actions and their guys play great out of concepts. Like that to me is why they're an absolute machine. I feel like often the spectrum is like, okay, you can either play out of concepts, have guys be really good at making reads, or you're a team that really plays out of structure, can really execute your stuff. Like you can do both. And Vanderbilt is showing why, but the reason that a lot of teams can't do both is like, that's hard to coach. And that is where I think Byington has done an incredible job. And man, if this continues, I know we have a lot of Vanderbilt fans that were requesting a video like this that will be watching. We don't want to say, okay, well, like what's Byington going to do next? But my goodness, you watch this team play. And if I'm any of the big jobs that are opening, you've got to at least, take a look at this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think the resume over time is very impressive in terms of just like the way he's won at different jobs, the way that he's won at harder places to win. The way he's made jobs better. But I also just think like the last 3 years are so compelling. I mean, 32 wins at JMU, an NCAA tournament win, turn around, make the tournament year one, now have an elite team in year two. He seems like the next elite coach. And we, again, as I mentioned, if we use the Oats comparison, and I think there are some similarities to what he did at Buffalo to what Byington did at JMU. Oats has stayed. I think there's plenty of reasons that Byington could stay. And I'm not going to say, I don't think we need to be like, oh, he's definitely got it. But like, to me, he feels like one of the next dudes in this profession, is like rapidly emerging as that. One thing on the basketball front that I wanted to point out from those clips that you mentioned, Fawcett, their bigs get a lot of talk about them. McLaughlin was like a guy that I think was popping up analytically as like a total star in the offseason and has had a very good start to the year. He's a great role player, understands his identity. I think, you'll see questions about their size defensively, and we'll get to that in a second. But I do think offensively, it just has to be just great to be Devin McLaughlin and Jalen Washington in the way that they play, in the way that the Vandy plays, because like they're just elite play finishers and play really hard on the glass. Like, it has to be a really freeing feeling as a big to play in that type of style. Like, hey, just go play with unbelievable energy, fly at the rim. We trust you if you have to play out of the short roll to make a decision. But like, just go rebound the heck out of the ball and finish it at the cup. And both guys are doing that at an elite level. Jalen Washington is 76% from two. Devin McLaughlin, 80% from two. Again, these numbers will regress a little bit when they play more of the SEC and less of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Eastern Kentucky. But we should note, like, they've played now VCU, who's very good and very talented, and is a top 20 defense right now. St. Mary's is a top 25 defense right now. They've played some teams with like very serious size and length, and they have managed to maintain this elite level offensively. So I certainly buy the offense. I think the defense is where the questions maybe appear, and how real this start is on that end. They were not great last year defensively. Part of that was teams shot the cover off the ball from three on them. I do think there's some regression coming in that regard, but when you are as undersized as they are, and when you are in rotations as much as they are, you do set yourself up for some trouble, even if you have ball hawks on the perimeter the way that they do.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about that his JMU team and thinking about that team in the tournament that like looked like a high major team because of their front court size. And now you look at this Vanderbilt team, that's definitely a lot smaller, and you can see that because of that, they have to play pretty aggressively in a lot of settings, and they will pressure the ball and they will blitz ball screens and they will get into rotation. And it's looked pretty good. I mean, a lot of these clips you're going to see here, they're flying around, they're forcing longer defensive possessions, they're contesting at the last second. I mean, St. Mary's going to hit some big shots here, but on plays that I think that Vanderbilt defended quite well. But yeah, it's just a situation where I watch them play, and I think it's great to watch how aggressive they are. Look how quickly that low man's there to tag the roll. Great contest at the end. St. Mary's makes a tough shot. Like, I watch a lot of these plays and I'm like, man, like, this is a connected defense. These guys are playing intelligently, which you'd probably expect based on how smart they look on the offensive end, like we talked about earlier. But I just look, Sweeney, at the degree of difficulty of playing this style, and I'm just curious if they can do it for the entirety of the SEC season, for a deep NCAA tournament run. You can also see plays like this where, because they're really small, and one of the successes they have had is really protecting the paint, not giving up a lot of shots at the rim, giving up a good or a low percentage at the rim. But you can see that in doing that, they were giving up some of those skip threes. And then the other thing that's been pretty interesting, we talked before the season how we thought that zone usage was going to be up. They went into a zone against VCU, playing this 2-3, again, playing it pretty aggressively, willing to use their foot speed and fly around, which is definitely something I like to see. Like, clearly Vanderbilt staff is like, okay, well, as a defense, what do we have? Okay, we've got like intelligence and speed. Okay, well, if you have that, then yeah, go around, fly around, get in rotation and scramble out of it, which they are doing. But it's a high degree of difficulty. And yeah, I wonder, could this be a top 25 defense? Could you play the style? Could they be a top 15 defense? Oh, that sounds like kind of difficult. And then you, of course, as we start to talk about what their true ceiling is this year, where does that leave them?
Right. Again, like if you're talking about national championships, you'd like to be a top 20 defense. Like historically, teams win the national championship if they have a top 20. Like the teams that win the national championship have top 20 defenses. And again, it's rarefied air that we're talking about here for Vanderbilt in particular. But I do think that there's a lot to be potentially said there. Is like, what is the ceiling with this group if they're going to give up the number of threes that they're going to give up? I was curious, and maybe this is something you have a better pulse of than I. I was watching the SMU game live last night, and I thought, I saw Tyler Tanner just like flying all over the place, coming as to double the post when Yejitoglu caught the ball on the block. And I think there are other guards would send it too, but like it seemed that they were very aggressive in sending post doubles, which I think of like Chris Lowry's system at Northwestern is one that has done that a lot, which has had some success in protecting the paint. Number one, is that something like in your experience that like is a very scripted thing versus like letting these guards just like go hunt the ball and make plays, knowing that they can like scramble out and figure it out in rotations? And number two, how sustainable do you think sending that number of doubles to the post when playing high level competition is at the highest level?
Yeah, I feel like it usually is scripted. Most teams want to know where that double team is coming from, and I think too, a lot of teams are probably not going to want to leave there if all things are equal. Year one or year two, whatever you want to call Tanner when he's on the floor with Miles, like probably leaving a shooter a little bit more. So that's probably a little bit more a point on the floor where he was at that. And again, maybe SMU putting him in a situation to do that. I would love to see Vanderbilt actually be a little bit more random. And I think that's when you're undersized and you've got smart players, like, yeah, change up where that double team is coming from. And if it's going to be sustainable, like you're saying, I think most teams will send a double team from the low man on the opposite side of the floor. So if you always do that, then teams can adjust. Even post players that aren't great passers, when they know where the double team is coming from, if it's coming all the time from the same time, like they can make adjustments. So if that is going to be something that Vanderbilt looks to do, then adding some variation is probably something they'll need. And for a staff that is also presumably interested in analytics to some extent, will also be interested to see how much they say, okay, if teams want to attack our 6'7" center by going to 10 right hooks a game, like, well, yeah, maybe we think they're only going to hit 4 and we'll be okay. So that'll be something to watch too. And for a team that, again, every time I just like even look at the numbers or look at their film again, I'm just like, oh man, like, yeah, like they really are undersized and it hasn't hurt them yet. I love watching the way they get in rotation and fly around, but you just wonder against some of these battering ram teams in the SEC, how does that hold up?
Right. And the one flaw you can really poke in their defense at the moment statistically is that they're fouling a ton. And if you look like, VCU 62% free throw rate in that game. Like even the last two games, which have been better, both have been in the 38% range in terms of free throw rate against, which is very high. That's bottom probably 75 nationally, one of the worst among like high level teams. And I think when you scramble as much as they do, you're going to end up in those adverse situations. You're going to end up fouling, and that is the least efficient way, obviously, to defend. As much as you want to allow a Yejitoglu right hook, you do not want to allow Yejitoglu to take 2 free throws, even if he's not an amazing free throw shooter. I have to look what his percentages actually are. But that to me is a pretty substantial concern for Vandy. Is just, can they defend without fouling, being as in like constant chaos mode as they are? But again, all told, these are minor critiques of a team that I think they will take advantage of the fact that the SEC doesn't have elite teams this year. Like Bama is gettable, Florida is gettable, Kentucky's has their issues right now. Arkansas certainly gettable, even though they've just kind of had the big win. Like there's a path here for Vandy to really make a surge and make a push at this SEC title. Those opportunities don't come around often. I do think that the lack of like clear NBA talent is a concern as you start thinking about Final Fours, national championships. But it would feel very foolish to bet against what they're doing right now. The formula feels so potent at the moment, and they're favored in every game on KenPom until February 28th at Kentucky. I'm not saying they're going undefeated until then. They're not. Like, I'm just going to say they're not. You can clip me if they do. But they got a chance to string this thing out for quite some time, and it'll be it'll be quite a story if they can keep this up.
Yeah, when we talk about the SEC, I do feel like a lot of the teams have kind of been letdowns a little bit. And when you look at some of the like letdowns, it's largely related to like the chemistry isn't quite there. These pieces don't fit great. A lot of teams that went a little bit more like depth than like top end talent. And that's where it's interesting where talking about like, okay, well, Vanderbilt doesn't have a lot of that like high end, like they don't have an NBA player. Well, I also look at a lot of these good teams in the SEC and I'm like, man, like where are their NBA players? Like a lot of these teams that just went like depth over like killers at the top. And I think that works. I think about some of these teams that have kind of shot themselves in the foot in a number of ways throughout the non-conference portion. And then I say, well, like Vanderbilt doesn't do that. Like, I don't feel like Vanderbilt is going to play themselves out of games in the way that even some of these top SEC teams do. And then, I just gave it a cursory glance. I'm not like super confident on this, but I thought I remember this going to the season. I do think, and again, it's still crazy to me this doesn't get more talk, but in the very unbalanced schedules of these bigger leagues, I do think that they actually have a challenging one. I'd have to go back and like really see, but if I guess like people that are maybe into betting on these things is probably like locked in, or Vanderbilt fans are probably locked in, but I do think the schedule broke a little bit difficultly for them if memory serves. And like, maybe that's something that comes into play, but yeah, I just think they might be the most like competent SEC team, while obviously not being the most talented. They could definitely get some of these teams that are more talented, but don't play with the same level of chemistry.
Yeah. Their double ups are Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. So that's tricky. I do think Ole Miss is down, but yeah, if you're talking path to the SEC championship, I know we've talked about a lot. Florida has a great path. I'm not sure Vandy's is as easy, but right. It's also hard at this point in the year to sit there and say too much. Like, we live in a world where LSU is currently top 25 in KenPom, right? Like, I don't think that lasts, but if you were weighing schedule strength right now, you would see that and say, oh, same thing with Georgia, who's 21st right now. Again, a number I don't expect to hold, but hey, if you told me in the preseason that Vanderbilt would be 7th on December 4th, I wouldn't have necessarily said that was going to hold. And now I'm very much buying what the Commodores are selling. So they're a fascinating team. It's one of my favorite videos we've done all year. We will certainly be back to them as they continue. But again, I think the biggest thing, especially because they played in a good MTE, Battle for Atlantis, but not necessarily the highest profile games. Same thing with the ACC SEC Challenge. They haven't been in this spotlight moment. So if you're a college hoops fan figuring out what is Vanderbilt and how are they doing this, I hope this video answered that question and more. Please subscribe to Basket Under Review. It is the home of all things independent college hoops. The content is superb. The Discord community is very entertaining. We enjoy being part of it. And I do have to shout out a number of folks who did come and say hello at the Players Era in Vegas. Is our first video since then. And I got way more, oh, you're Kevin Sweeney, you do the videos on Basket Under Review, than Kevin Sweeney, you work for Sports Illustrated. And I know part of that's my face is everywhere on this to the detriment of the viewers. But yeah, a lot of folks who are basketball sickos made their way to Vegas and showed some love. So whether you love the Players Era or hate it, it was good to see some of the faces out there, and the community is a lot of fun. So please do join us on this journey, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for another episode of Scout Team next week.